Open your refrigerator right now. Not in a minute, right now. Look at what is actually inside. There is probably something from a country you have never visited, processed in a facility you will never see, kept cold by technology that did not exist 200 years ago. There is fruit that was picked last week on another continent. There is meat that was packaged by a machine. There is something in a bottle with ingredients you cannot pronounce. Your ancestors would not have recognized a single item in there as food. Not the packaged meat, not the bottled sauce, not the fruit shipped from the other side of the planet. Not one thing. They lived for 3 million years without any of it, without farms, without kitchens, without refrigerators, supply chains, or anything we would call a meal. And yet they survived long enough to build the brain you are using right now to read these words. So the question is not just what they ate. The question is what they ate that made you possible. And whether any trace of that answer is still running inside you right now. You picture them as hunters. You have seen the image 1,000 times. Strong men with spears, a fire burning at night, a large animal brought down on an open plain. That story is almost entirely wrong. For the first 2 million years of human prehistory, our ancestors were not hunters. They were scavengers. When a lion killed an antelope on the African savanna, the lion ate first. The organs, the liver, the heart, the parts dense with fat and protein. Then came the hyenas, then the vultures. By the time our ancestors arrived, what remained was the skeleton. Bones too thick for any jaw or claw to crack open. That is what we ate, not because we chose it, not because it was good, because it was the only thing left that no one else wanted. In 1999, archaeologist Manuel Dominguez Rodrigo at Complutense University in Madrid published a study examining cut marks on animal bones recovered across East Africa, dated between 1.5 and 2.5 million years old. What he found overturned decades of assumptions about who we were. The cut marks from stone tools appeared on top of carnivore tooth marks, meaning our ancestors arrived after the predators had already finished their meal. This was not accidental. It was deliberate. Our ancestors were following large predators across the savanna, watching kills from a safe distance, waiting for the lions and hyenas to finish, then moving in fast to claim the bones before vultures stripped the last of it away. Inside those bones was something extraordinary that almost no other animal on the savanna could reach. Marrow. Dense, gray fat sealed deep inside walls of bone too thick for any teeth or claws to breach. To reach it, our ancestors used what archaeologists call Oldowan flakes, sharp-edged stones deliberately shaped by striking one rock against another at a precise angle. A single femur from a large animal contained nearly half a pound of pure fat. A cracked skull could yield close to the same. For a species surviving on the margins of every meal, this was the most calorie-dense food available anywhere on the landscape. Some researchers now argue that tool use did not begin with hunting. It began with the specific and urgent problem of cracking bones and opening skulls. The calories locked inside those bones built the feedback loop that eventually produced a brain capable of far more than finding the next meal. Around 1 million years ago, at a site called Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, archaeologist Francesco Berna found burned bone fragments and concentrated plant ash dated to approximately 1 million years before the present. It is the oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire anywhere on Earth. Fire changed everything about what it meant to eat. Raw meat requires hours of chemical processing by your digestive system. Cooked meat does not. Cooking is essentially pre-digestion. It breaks down proteins and cell walls before food even enters your body, which means your gut can extract significantly more calories from the same amount of food while spending far less energy to do so. As our ancestors began cooking regularly, their digestive tracts shrank because the hard work was being done outside the body. The energy freed from digestion was redirected entirely to the organ that consumes 20% of your body's total calorie budget while accounting for only 2% of its weight. The brain grew larger. Cooking did not just change what we ate, it changed what we became. By around 300,000 years ago, the human diet had expanded into something that looked less like desperate survival and more like a sophisticated strategy. The Hadza people of northern Tanzania represent one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer populations on Earth, and researchers have spent decades documenting exactly what they eat. Anthropologist Frank Marrow, who studied the Hadza across much of his career, documented a diet of remarkable variety. dozens of species of wild tubers, berries, seeds, and fruits across a single season, alongside giraffe, zebra, and impala when hunts succeed, and birds and small reptiles when they do not. They collect bee larvae and eat them raw on the spot without hesitation. They climb trees at dangerous heights and willingly absorb hundreds of stings to reach wild honeycomb, because nothing else in the entire natural landscape delivers as many calories in a single mouthful. Marrow's data shows the Hadza obtain roughly 15% of their total annual calories from honey alone. Your craving for sugar is not a modern weakness. It is not a failure of willpower or discipline. Your nervous system was shaped across hundreds of thousands of years in an environment where sweetness meant honey, and honey meant a rare and massive calorie surplus that could carry you through days of empty-handed hunting and failed foraging that might otherwise end your life. That craving was so reliably useful for survival across so many generations that natural selection locked it in permanently. It never switched off because it never needed to. What changed is that someone engineered a way to manufacture that exact same neurological signal in a factory, concentrate it to levels far beyond anything that exists anywhere in nature, and sell it to you sealed in a plastic wrapper for less than $1. Your body receives that signal and responds exactly as it was designed to respond. It cannot tell the difference. It was never built to make that distinction. There is one more thing our ancestors ate that almost no one discusses, because it sits uncomfortably beside the cleaner version of prehistory we prefer to imagine. They ate partially decomposed meat when hunters made a large kill. A mammoth, an aurochs, a giant elk. They could not consume the entire animal immediately. Portions were buried in the ground, packed into cold streams, or stored for days and sometimes weeks. By the time they returned, the meat was saturated with microbes and smelled nothing like anything you would approach today. They ate it anyway. Some researchers believe they actively preferred it at certain stages of decomposition. Partially broken down protein is easier for the gut to digest than fresh raw meat. The bacteria involved in that process produce B vitamins that fresh meat does not supply in the same quantities. Every fermented food you reach for today, aged cheese, yogurt, sourdough bread, soy sauce, wine, beer, is a controlled and sanitized version of exactly this process. The preference that draws you toward those foods did not develop in a French dairy or a Korean kitchen. It developed across tens of thousands of years on a landscape where the smell of fermentation told your body that nutrition was available long before your conscious mind had any opinion about it. The body you were living in was built for a world that no longer exists. The cravings that move you, the foods you cannot stop eating, the tastes that pull you in directions you did not consciously choose. None of that is random, and none of it is weakness. All of it made perfect sense once. In a world where calories were scarce, meals were never guaranteed, and every rich source of fat or sugar or fermented protein represented the difference between surviving the week and not. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It has simply not received the message that the world it was designed for is gone. Open your refrigerator one more time. Nothing in there is what your body was built for. Everything in there is what your body was built to want. That gap between those two things, that is the whole story.